Hello again everyone. Today I will give a lecture on the respiratory system. But don't forget to fill in the attendance form. Okay? Before we go to the organs in the respiratory system, let me briefly explain the general functions first. Respiratory system is important to provide gas exchange surface area between air and circulating blood. It is also plays a role in sound production, and in this system it also provides olfactory sense, which is the sense of smell. And yes, as you know, the current health challenge globally is COVID-19. And it is a respiratory disease, and this normal function of respiratory system may be affected for people that are infected with COVID-19. Okay, let's move to the organs in this system. Here is an image showing you the labeling of organs in the respiratory system. Start from the nostril until the lungs. Right? I will go through one by one of the organs in this lecture. But before that, I want to talk about the two functional zones in the respiratory tract, which are the conducting zone and the respiratory zone. The difference between these two functional zones is on the function and the structure. For conducting zone, it forms like a continuous passageway for the air to move into and out of the lungs. And the structure involved in this conducting zone are from the nasal cavity to the terminal bronchioles. Second is the respiratory zone. This respiratory zone allows gas exchange where inhaled oxygen diffuses into the lung capillaries in exchange for carbon dioxide. And the structure involved are the respiratory bronchioles and alveoli. Alright, that's it for the two functional zones. For respiratory system as a whole, it can be divided into upper and lower respiratory system. So, all structures that are above the larynx are considered as upper respiratory system. Meanwhile, structures that are below the larynx are known as the lower respiratory system. Here is the division of the upper and lower respiratory system in a diagram. Okay? So, I will start first with the upper respiratory system. The upper respiratory system is important to filter, warm, and humidify the air that you breathe. Nose, nasal cavity, sinuses, pharynx, and larynx are the structures in the upper respiratory system. Here is a sagittal section image of the upper respiratory part. So the air that you breathe will be filtered, warmed, and humidified in the nasal cavity area before the air goes to the lower respiratory system. Okay. First, we will start with the nose. Okay. The air enters the respiratory system through the nose. To be exact, it is through the nostril, or you can call it external nares. Then, after that, the air will enter into the nasal vestibule. Okay? Nasal hairs are located in the nasal vestibule. So the nasal hair in the nasal vestibule will trap the dust or particles from going into your lower respiratory system. Okay? Here is the nasal vestibule. Then after that, nasal cavity. The structure that separates the nasal cavity into left and right is called nasal septum. Okay? The superior portion of the nasal cavity is the olfactory region. Okay? What is this region actually? So this olfactory region is responsible for the sense of smell. Okay? That's why if you read the research articles online, one of the symptoms for the COVID-19 patient is loss of smell, as the virus has affected the function in the respiratory system. Next structure in the upper respiratory system, paranasal sinuses. So for paranasal sinuses, they are actually a hollow space that's filled with air, located within the bones that surround the nasal cavity. So basically, sinus is a hollow cavity. Okay? So why do humans need to have this hollow cavity or sinus? Okay, sinus is important actually to lighten the skull. Okay, can you imagine human skull without this sinus or hollow cavity? It will be very heavy, as it is full compact with bone with no hole. Other than that, sinus also produce mucus that moisturize the inside of the nose, and the mucus also protect nose from dust, particles, and even microorganisms. So for paranasal sinuses, we have frontal sinus, ethmoid sinus, maxillary sinus, and sphenoid sinus, as labeled in the image here. Next, the pharynx, which connects the nasal cavities to the larynx. Okay? Pharynx is located anterior to the cervical vertebrae. And there are three sections for the pharynx, which are nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx. Okay, can you guess which section of the pharynx that is important for COVID-19 swab test? Okay, here are some more descriptions on the location for each of the pharynx sections. Okay? For the nasopharynx, which is the superior portion of the pharynx, it is found between the base of the skull and the soft palate. While the next portion of the pharynx is oropharynx, it is located between soft palate and the superior border of the epiglottis. And the last portion portion of pharynx is laryngopharynx. Okay? It is located between the superior border of epiglottis and inferior of the cricoid cartilage. Okay, where is this cricoid cartilage? I will show you here in this image. Just now I mentioned about cricoid cartilage, right? Okay, here is the location of the cricoid cartilage as labeled in the yellow box. Okay, cricoid cartilage is situated exactly at the level of the C6 vertebrae. Okay. Okay, we are still in the upper respiratory system. Now the larynx. For larynx, it is located anterior to the inferior portion of the pharynx and superior to the trachea. Okay? Larynx is important to protect the lower airway tract. It prevents the entry of food and liquid into your respiratory tract. And larynx also plays a role in sound production. Okay? So, do you know how larynx prevents the food that you eat from entering your airway tract? Do you know how? This is because the larynx has a lid. And the lid is called epiglottis. Okay? Here is epiglottis as shown in the image, labeling by the red box. Okay? So when you are eating, the epiglottis moves down to keep any food or liquid from entering the respiratory tract. Okay? So larynx composed of several cartilages. They can be divided into three large unpaired cartilages, which are epiglottis, thyroid, and cricoid. And they also have three pairs of smaller cartilages, which are arytenoid, corniculate, and uniform. Okay? Here are images from anterior and lateral views showing you the location of each cartilage of the larynx. Okay? First, the large cartilages. Okay? Then, the blue box showing you the smaller cartilages. Okay. Larynx is also important in sound production. Okay, this is because there are vocal cords located within the larynx, which is responsible for the sound production. Okay? Alright, we have covered the upper part of the respiratory system. Now, let's look into the lower respiratory system. The structures are trachea, bronchus, bronchioles, and alveoli. So first, the trachea. Trachea is also known as the windpipe. Sometimes in the reference book, you see they put the name as windpipe. So when you see the word windpipe, you know exactly it is the trachea. So the trachea, it extends from the cricoid cartilage into the mediastinum. Okay? Where it will branch into right and left pulmonary bronchi. Okay? Or bronchus. Bronchi is plural, bronchus is singular. So in trachea, there are several tracheal cartilages. Okay? There are about 15 to 20 tracheal cartilages. And all of these tracheal cartilages, they are C-shaped. Okay? These cartilages are important because it will strengthen and protect the airway. But why do these tracheal cartilage made a C shape. Why not O shape? Okay, the tracheal cartilages is continuous where the trachea contacts the esophagus. I will show you the image of the C shape of tracheal cartilages after this. So this is the image of trachea and tracheal cartilages which will branching to form primary bronchus. And here is the C-shaped cartilage of the trachea. Okay, it is C-shaped because it will allow the esophagus to expand. Okay. Now we move to the bronchus. From trachea, it will branch into first primary bronchi, which are the left and right bronchi, that's separated by an internal ridge, which is called the carina. Okay, I show you the image here, the carina. Okay. Then, primary bronchi is subdivided into secondary bronchi before turn into tertiary bronchi. The size of bronchi, especially the diameter, becomes smaller as it goes down. Okay? As it goes from primary to secondary and to tertiary, the size and diameter will become smaller. Okay? Here are the images of the primary, secondary, and tertiary bronchi. Okay? In the left and right lung. Okay, as we have seen the lung, let me briefly explain the structure of the lung. Okay? So there are left and right lungs, okay, as you already know, with each lung located in the left and right pleural cavities. The base of the lungs of the inferior part of the lungs are located on the superior surface of diaphragm. Okay? In the image here, you can see the diaphragm. Okay? And lungs have several lobes that are separated by deep fissures. Okay. Next. So the number of lobes in each lung is different. Okay, if you can see from the image below. For the right lung, it has 3 lobes, okay, which are the superior lobe, middle lobe, and inferior lobe. Each lobe is separated by horizontal fissure and oblique fissure. But for the left lung, it has 2 lobes, okay, compared to the right lung. So the 2 lobes in the left lung are superior and inferior lobes. So the lobes in the left lung are separated by an oblique fissure. Okay, this is brief explanation about pleural membrane, which is the parietal pleura and visceral pleura. Okay? I'm sure you still remember my first lecture on pleural cavity. Okay. Back to the structure in the lower respiratory system, which is the bronchioles. Okay? From the tertiary bronchus, it will branch to form multiple bronchioles. Okay? Then bronchioles are branching into terminal bronchioles, and after that they will branch to form respiratory bronchioles. Okay? So for bronchioles, they are terminal and respiratory bronchioles. Okay? And the difference is, in respiratory respiratory bronchiole, it is where the gas exchange takes place. Okay. Next, the alveolus. Okay. So, when you see the word alveoli, it means plural. Okay. Alveolus is singular. Okay. From the respiratory bronchiole just now, it will lead to the alveolar duct. Okay. The alveolar duct is ending at the alveolar sac. Okay, alveolar sac, which is like a pouch. Okay. The alveolar sacs are composed of alveoli. Okay, so the pouch of the alveolar, which is called the alveolar sac, they are composed of many alveolus. Okay, alveoli is plural, alveolus is singular. In alveolar, there are many capillaries. As you can see from the image here, okay. Why the alveolus needs a lot of capillaries? Because gas exchange occurs in here, okay, in the alveolus. And the alveolar structure is surrounded by elastic fibers. Okay. There are two important cells in the alveolar wall, which are type 1 and type 2 pneumocytes. Okay. And you know that the SARS-CoV-2 virus for COVID-19 has been reported to infect mainly in the type 2 pneumocytes of the alveoli. Okay. So the difference between type 1 and type 2 are the functions. Okay. Type 1 is for gas exchange, while type 2 for producing surfactants. Here is the image showing you the gas exchange event that occurs in the alveolus surrounded by blood capillaries. Okay. And here is another image of gas exchange in the alveolus. The type 1 pneumocyte is the cell in the alveolus that plays a role in gas exchange process. Okay. Alright, I think that's all from me for the respiratory system. Thank you everyone for your attention. Take care and goodbye.